Today, we're diving into the absolutely incredible story of Dr. Terry Wahls. She's a physician who was diagnosed with progressive multiple sclerosis, an illness that eventually put her in a wheelchair. But her story doesn't end there. It takes a turn that's almost hard to believe, from being unable to sit up on her own to biking for miles with her family. So, we're going to explore exactly how she pulled that off and unpack the powerful protocol she created from her own journey. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That one sentence right there tells you everything you need to know about how dramatic this transformation was. It's the kind of thing that seems impossible, right? It totally challenges what most of us, and even many doctors, think is possible with a chronic disease. So, how on earth did this happen? Well, to really understand the recovery, we first have to understand the decline. To truly grasp the scale of her recovery, you have to see how far she had fallen. And this wasn't just any patient. This was a highly accomplished doctor, a lifelong athlete, who suddenly found herself battling an illness that was, by all accounts, unstoppable. The contrast here is just staggering. It's night and day. Before MS, Dr. Wahls was a full-contact martial artist, competing in taekwondo, even running marathons. We're talking about someone at their absolute physical peak. And then, after the diagnosis, even with access to the absolute best medical care in the world, her new reality became a wheelchair, constant, grinding pain, and staring down a future where she'd likely be completely bedridden. And look, this didn't just happen overnight. It was a slow, creeping decline that spanned 20 years. It started with these little twinges of facial pain. Then, in the year 2000, she got the official diagnosis: multiple sclerosis. By 2003, things were accelerating, and fast. She needed a wheelchair, even though she was taking the best drugs available. And by 2007, she had hit rock bottom. She was confined to a special zero-gravity chair. Her mind was so foggy she feared dementia, and she was just living with this unimaginable pain. Can you even imagine that? This is coming straight from her, describing her lowest point. It had gotten so bad, she actually rewrote her living will. She was preparing for a time when the pain would be so untreatable, she might not even be able to communicate. The sense of hopelessness was just total. But this is where the story pivots. This is the turning point. As a physician who had already tried everything conventional medicine had to offer, she decided, okay, I'm putting my research hat back on. She was going to take her health into her own hands and dig into the science herself. And it all started with this one simple question. She was already on a paleo diet, she was taking the newest, most expensive drugs, and yet she was still getting worse. So she had to ask herself, am I really doing everything I can? That single question sparked this desperate deep dive into medical research that went way beyond her own specialty. Now, this wasn't just some random guessing game. It was a methodical, scientific approach. First, she went straight to the source, burying herself in research articles on PubMed. That led her to focus on the brain and, ultimately, the cell itself. She realized that the mitochondria, those tiny little powerhouses in our cells, were a huge factor in her disability. And that led to the big aha moment. What if she stopped obsessing over supplements and instead completely redesigned her diet to feed those mitochondria, to give them the exact nutrients they needed straight from food? So she started this new, super structured way of eating on December 26, 2007. And what happened next? Well, not even she could have possibly predicted. For years, Dr. Wahls had to eat her meals in that special zero-gravity chair. But just 3 weeks into her new protocol, she asked her family to bring a normal, regular chair to the dinner table. And for the first time in a very, very long time, she just sat with her family for supper. It was a small thing, but it was a huge, deeply meaningful first victory.
And the progress just kept coming. A few months later, it's Mother's Day, and she decides she's going to try to ride her bike. First time in 6 years. Her family was so terrified she would fall, they were literally running alongside her as she wobbled off. But she did it. She biked all the way around the block. And like she says, in that tearful, unbelievably emotional moment, she knew that the way everyone understood her disease had to be wrong. It was incomplete.
And then we get to this number. This is the number that just blows me away. That very same year, just a few months after that shaky ride around the block, she completed an 18.5-mile bike tour with her family. Just think about that. She went from being unable to even sit up to biking over 18 miles, all within one single year. That experience fundamentally changed everything she thought she knew about health. Okay, so that's the unbelievable story. Now for the big question. How? How did she do it? Let's break down the core ideas behind the diet she created, which is now famous as the Wahls Protocol. The whole protocol, the entire thing, is built around this one idea: mitochondria. Just think of them as these tiny little engines inside every single one of your cells. If those engines don't get the right fuel, they start to sputter and fail. And if they fail, your body just can't do its job. Dr. Wahls' big insight was that if you give those little engines the premium fuel they're designed for, they can start working so much better. So the protocol is really built on two simple ideas: what to add and what to remove. The goal is to flood your body with nutrients. So on the add side, we're talking 9 cups of vegetables a day. Yeah, 9, that's a lot. Specifically, leafy greens, brightly colored veggies, and sulfur-rich ones like cabbage and onions. Then at the same time, you want to calm down inflammation by removing common triggers. For her, that meant gluten, dairy, eggs, and all processed sugar. And we can get even more specific. On her list of best foods, she really prioritizes things like liver, which is just one of the most nutrient-packed foods on the entire planet, and things like sauerkraut for its probiotic power to help your gut. And on the worst foods list, well, number 1 with a bullet is sugar-sweetened drinks, because they're just gasoline on the fire of inflammation. Right behind that are flour-based foods and anything with emulsifiers, which can really mess with the delicate ecosystem in our gut. And all of this leads to a really powerful and, for some, a paradigm-shifting idea. What if diet and lifestyle aren't just things you do on the side of medicine? What if they are actually foundational to our health? The whole philosophy here is about creating the absolute best, most supportive environment for your cells to do the job they were born to do. So let's just boil this all down to the core takeaways. The fundamental belief here is that the instructions for repair and renewal are already built into your body's DNA. Your diet, the food you eat, provides the raw materials, the building blocks that your cells need to follow those instructions. By taking out all the processed junk, we lighten the load on our bodies, which frees them up to focus on repair. And what that ultimately means is that you, can take a much more active role in creating health from the inside out. And that's the powerful, hopeful idea that's really at the heart of this whole story. Dr. Wahls' journey suggests that by giving ourselves the right building blocks and by taking away the things that get in their way, we might just be able to unlock our body's own incredible capacity for repair. And it leaves all of us with a really provocative question to think about. Could the instructions to repair your body be waiting on your plate?